Moments away, President Trump joins us live, fresh from his appearance at CPAC earlier today. Evening, everyone, and welcome to The Next Revolution. I'm Steve Hilton, and this is the home of positive populism, pro-worker, pro-family, pro-community, and especially pro-America. All right, let's set the scene for our conversation with the former president with a quick review of what the current president's been up to this week in those rare sightings as he's wheeled out by his aides, like some Soviet-era gerontocrat, to sign an executive order written by the woke leftists, government unions, and unaccountable bureaucrats who are actually running the country. In those rare moments on public view, Biden has used them to lie about his signature legislation. He says his relief bill is vital to reopen schools, but the Congressional Budget Office tells us that only 4% of the money that's in it for schools is due to be spent this year. Biden says states need $350 billion to help with their finances, but 21 states had higher revenues last year, and even California had a multi-billion-dollar surplus. When Biden says the states need more money, what he really means is that New York's Andrew Cuomo needs more money. I don't know, perhaps it's to pay for the extra lawyers he needs to defend himself against all the sexual harassment allegations, which our nation's most valiant Me Too crusader, Vice President Harris, has been eerily silent about. I guess we shouldn't be too surprised. After all, as San Francisco District Attorney, she covered up child sexual abuse when it was politically expedient. So this is nothing. And that's not the only laughable hypocrisy from the White House this week. Remember Democrats' orgy of self-righteous virtue signaling over Trump's missile strikes, Jamal Khashoggi, and kids in cages? Well, guess what? It's all fine now because Biden's doing it. All that outrage about coddling dictators, yeah, they just meant Trump's dictators. When it's dictators in Iran or China, that's fine, coddle away. I guess this is what Biden means by build back better. Joining me now to discuss all this and more, President Donald Trump. Mr. President, great to have you join us this evening. Big day for you at CPAC. How do you think it went?
Well, it's great to be with you, Steve. I think it went really well. The crowd, the enthusiasm, and even outside, the numbers of people and that enthusiasm, it was great. It was really a great day. Amazing.
I want to talk about some of the things you said in the speech in a moment and the future that you sketched out. But just a couple of, I'd love your reaction to a couple of things that have been in the news, just your quick reactions to that. One of the things you mentioned today was the Abraham Accords, of course, the Middle East peace deals that you brokered. Right. A big part of that was your strong relationship with Saudi Arabia. It's interesting that Biden, despite what he said in the campaign, has basically decided not to do anything about the Crown Prince in relation to the Jamal Khashoggi case. And I just wonder whether this is an instance where, with Biden prioritizing, it seems, the Saudi relationship over human rights, this is one area where you actually think he's done the right thing.
Well, Saudi Arabia has been an ally of ours, and they've really been a very strong ally, and they spend a tremendous amount of money in the United States buying equipment that they don't have to buy from us. We make the best equipment by far. But they could buy it from Russia, they could buy it from China, they could buy it from France or other people that make equipment like they want to buy. And, you know, we're talking about $400 billion over a period of years. And unlike a lot of countries, we don't give it free. And they actually pay their bills. So, you know, it's tremendous numbers of jobs. It's a big, big purchaser. And, you know, we have to look at that along with everything else. It's unfortunate that the whole incident took place, but we have to look at it as an overall. And I think they're viewing it maybe in a similar fashion. Very interesting, actually.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And but there's another area where it's very different kind of approach to the one that you laid out today. That's on the border. I just want to just reference a news report last week. Axios was reporting on this. The HHS officials are saying that the February numbers of children separated from the families at the border are the highest in the history of the program, and CBP officials are now projecting that by May there will be 13,000 children separated from their families at the border, way more than anything that occurred on your watch. And my question to you is, do you think that in the end they'll end up copying your border policy, if only on humanitarian grounds?
Well, that I can't tell you, but I do know that this open mat policy that they have, and come on up and share in the share in the riches. It's been a disaster. People are coming up. They're pouring up from the border, Steve, and like we haven't seen before. And I think you've seen nothing yet. It's going to be more and more with you free health care and free everything. You get free everything, things that nobody would believe. Education, you see what's going on. They have education and they have schools. Or classrooms at least. I don't know if you'd call them formal schools. And in the meantime, we won't educate our own children in class. They have to do it by a computer, which is terrible for our children. Terrible.
It's unbelievable. And you spoke so strongly about that today, which I'm so with you on that. There's so much that I want to get to in your speech. We don't have a huge amount of time. One thing, it was a small thing, but I really appreciated it based on my experience working in government, when you were telling the story of how you ended up pushing forward Operation Warp Speed so we have the vaccines today in a way that no one ever predicted. And you specifically said, you really had to fight the FDA and they didn't like it, but you made them do it. That attitude to take on the bureaucracy seems to be key to getting things done in government. I just wondered if you had any other examples of how you did that to make things happen.
Well, there are many examples, and you take a look at what's happening with military spending and some of the things I've done with regard to getting things at a lesser price. And unfortunately, we have elements that, they were ordered a long time ago, and the cost overruns have been horrific. But when you look at Warp Speed, when you look at Operation Warp Speed, now I was very strong with the FDA, and the FDA is a strong body of people. Most of them have been there a long time. They're very much ingrained, and they have a way of doing things. And people thought it would take at least 5 years to get a vaccine, and I would not have it. And I had meetings, and I went through the process of what you have to do. And, one other thing, we took a risk. It was, I think, an educated bet, but we started making vaccines before we knew whether or not they were going to really work. We had a pretty good idea that they were going to, but that would have delayed it for months if we didn't do that. And we put our money where the mouth was, or where our mouth was, and we got vaccines made very, very early. And if you think about it, the whole process took 9 months. And this was something that was supposed to take, as you know, 4 or 5 years. And I think the outcome would have been different. I think what we did, we put up research money and research and development money, which I don't think the drug companies would have done without us. And we came up with a vaccine, and it's being credited as being one of the great miracles of medicine. It saved, we talk about the number of lives. I think it saved just tens of millions of lives throughout the world. It's been a tremendous success, and the vaccines are really working.
Exactly.
Maybe even better than anticipated. And they're getting out there. We got them out very fast. We're up to 1.5 million a day, and we are very proud of that. That's been a tremendous achievement.
Well, rightly so, and it was just so outrageous, frankly, to see the incoming Biden administration basically dismiss all that. And I think you must have been pleased to see Admiral Brett Giroir really push back on that. The other day he said 99% of what's happening now with the vaccines was what we put in place.
Yeah, and I would only disagree because I would have said 100%. And by the way, he's fantastic. He did a great job. And we had others in the military, as you know, when you look at the logistics, we call it logistics. That's what it was. We had that all set up so beautifully, and it worked so well. And it just automatically just gets better and better. And, we rely on states, but not exclusively. And we're working together with states. Some states do. I could write a book on the ones that do good and the governors that do good and the governors that do badly. I mean, we have some governors that are just atrocious. But despite all of that, the work is getting done, and it's being done in record time. And we're helping other countries besides that, which is very important.
That's right.
In all fairness.
That's right. It's not just here. It's around the world. I want to shift to the more political aspects of what you talked about today and your future role. You made it clear you are not going to be starting a new party. You want Republicans to be united and to win. Let's talk about the next election coming up, the midterms in 2022.
Okay.
You announced today that you're going to be getting involved, backing candidates. I had one question there, which is, if Ronna McDaniel, who it seems to me is doing a terrific job, says to you, look, a couple of the people that you may want to support through primaries, they're really strong in their districts. We don't want to take them out because then the seat might go to the Democrats. Would you listen to her on that?
I would. I have a lot of respect for Ronna. She's been terrific. She headed up my Michigan campaign the first time, which was very, very successful. It was very successful the second time also, by the way. I think probably more successful. But she's terrific. And, no, I would listen to that. You know, there's a practicality. There's an electability. There's a lot of things to go into a decision. But we also have some great people that want to run for office from a lot of different states, and Michigan's one of them, frankly. But, no, I definitely would listen to a lot of people.
And,
by the way,
seems to me,
the whole incident, Steve, of starting another party was fake news. You know, that was started up by the fake news. The last thing I want to do is start another party. All you do is make it easier for the Democrats. And we have, you know, certain disadvantages in terms of things that are done and the way they're done when you compare Democrats with Republicans to start off with. No, I think I would never be interested in another party. We have, other than some particular people, we have great unity in the party. And I think you see that at CPAC today. You see the polls, you saw the 97% poll. And Mr. McLaughlin, who's terrific, that's a terrific brother tandem. He said these are the best polls that they've ever seen. Even stronger than Ronald Reagan polls by a lot, actually, but it was 97%.
Yeah.
So the last thing we want to do is let's split it up, whether it be 70%, 80%, or 90%. You can't lose 10% and be successful. So the last thing I would have done, I would never have done another party, and that was purely fake news, you know, put out there by the press.
Another poll that I was interested in, we're going to be showing this later actually, is I've seen some people out there saying, well, CPAC isn't the Republican Party, and therefore you can't assume that their support for you translates across the party. Actually, there was a poll that was done last week, and the support for you in running in 2024 is literally the same number. So I don't know, it seems to me that all this talk of Republican civil war is another example of a story that's not really real. It feels to me like the agenda that you laid out really is the one that the overwhelming majority of Republicans are now behind.
Well, Steve, they want great trade deals, not these horrible deals that we've had for years where the United States gets ripped off. You look at, you know, we were losing $504 or $505 billion, not million, billion dollars a year with China. And I started taking in massive amounts of hundreds of millions of dollars in tariffs and lots of other things. And business was coming back in. The one thing they hated were those tariffs. But, you know, they want to have the straight deals. They want to have strong military. They want to have strong law enforcement. They want to protect their Second Amendment. They want great education. They want health care. You know, I mean, these are all things that you would think are almost common sense. But you know, we're really, I think CPAC is representative very much of the Republican Party. I really do. And the people.
Yeah, well, that's the data suggests that. Yeah.
Yeah, I really do. I think it's very accurate in that sense.
So let's look ahead. Beyond 2022, 2024, I'm not expecting any kind of announcement from you. No one is for a while. But you're a numbers guy. You teased it a few times today in your speech. Would you put a number on the chances that you're going to want to run again for the presidency next time?
Well, if you look at what just came out of the Republican Party and even separately CPAC, you know, if you look at the kind of numbers, the support is tremendous. But we'll have to see. Look, I got more votes than any sitting president in history, almost 75 million votes. We had statistics that are so incredible with the number of seats that we picked up in Congress, and that was done largely, and I worked with a lot of different people, but I was very active between the calls and the town hall meetings and all of the things we did. We lost no seats in Congress, and we picked up 15, and we were expected to lose 20 or 25 seats. I mean, they were thinking we were going to lose 20, 25 seats, and we ended up picking up 15. That was a tremendous success. I think I helped at least 8 to 10 senators get elected. You'd be down 10 right now if I didn't get involved, and they understand that. And I have great relationships with most of the senators. We have some that I'm not very fond of. We have some that I think are not good, not talented, not smart, and they're bad for the party. I think they're frankly bad for the country. But, you know, that is what it is. I guess that's not so unusual. I do say this, the Democrats are smart they're vicious. They're very vicious. They're, what they say and what they do is just terrible. And they have one other thing that is very admirable, and I wish Republicans had more of it. The Democrats, you never see a Mitt Romney going rogue, which you see him all the time, or a little Ben Sass of Nebraska. Great state, great people. How this guy even represents them is just crazy. He wanted my endorsement so badly. The moment he got through the primaries with my endorsement, he goes rogue, which I sort of expected, frankly, because you got to know your customer. But you take a look at some of the people.
So look,
Democrats don't seem to have that. They stick together. And what they don't have, though, is they don't have good policy. They have horrible policy, whether it's defund the police or open borders or sanctuary cities, which is protecting all sorts of criminals and people that shouldn't be protected and people that cause lots of problems. So they have horrible policy. So they're vicious and smart, and they stick together, but they have horrible policy. And the policy, I think, really more than makes up for it. I think we're going to have a tremendous success.
So I do want to, you don't have too much time left, but I do want to ask you about January the 6th. It's been reported that when that was unfolding, you were watching it, and actually you liked what you were seeing because you felt that it was your people fighting for you. Do you get how bad it was? And is there anything looking back on it now that you would have done differently that day?
Yeah. Well, that's incorrect reporting. First of all, I wasn't watching TV. I turned it on later on when I heard about it and did a lot of moves. We said to the Department of Defense, the top person, days before we had the rally, because that rally was massive. I mean, the press doesn't like to talk about, but the real number was much, much bigger in terms of the people that were at the location. It went all the way back practically to the Washington Monument. It was tremendous numbers of people. Not the Capitol. I'm talking about the rally itself. And it was a love fest. It was a beautiful thing. No, but we actually, I said, look, this rally is going to be bigger than anyone thinks, because everybody I'd see said, oh, we're going to be at the rally. We're going to be at the rally. And it was, I think, the largest crowd that I've ever spoken before, and I've spoken very big crowds, hundreds of thousands of people, and more than that, but hundreds of thousands of people. And I said that I think you should have 10,000. I think I gave the number. I definitely gave the number of 10,000 National Guardsmen. I think you should have 10,000 of the National Guard ready. They took that number. From what I understand, they gave it to the people at the Capitol, which is controlled by Pelosi, and I heard they rejected it because they didn't think it looked good. So, that was a big mistake.
I just want to know how you feel about it now. Do you just get how bad it was?
No,
I think people want to hear you say that.
No, I hate to see it. I think it's terrible. I hate to see it. I will tell you that it's very interesting. However, when you see Washington burning and when you see Seattle burning and Portland burning and all these other places burning with Antifa and the radical left, nothing seems to happen. Nobody seems to be bothered by that. And I hate to see that difference, but I hated to see the site at the Capitol. I hate to see any of that. But it is a double standard, because every time you look at Antifa and these other cities burning, it's terrible. You look at Minneapolis and what happened over there, and if we didn't allow the Guard to go in, they'd still be having problems there. But so I do hate to see that double standard. I think it's very unfair.
So last question. Another report, which may or may not be true, that actually since you've been stopped from using Twitter, you're actually happier to be off Twitter. And I'm just wondering whether the impact of your speech today not being on Twitter, there's a sort of Trump 2.0 where there's kind of less is more strategy that actually might be something you want to see.
Well, it could be. I mean, I have much more time. I can now speak to you a little bit, and I can do things that, frankly, when you're tweeting, does take up time, and you want to make it perfect, because if you make a spelling mistake or you put a comma in the wrong location, they go wild. He doesn't know this, or he doesn't. So, you want to make it good. You want to make it. But I will tell you, I do have much more time. My poll numbers are high. I think they're the highest they've ever been. It's very interesting. I had, when I was tweeting, and I know you about tweeting too, but I'm telling you, it's sort of very cool. I had a lot of people saying, I love him, we love our president, but I wish he wouldn't tweet. It's true.
Well, there you are. Now they've got
a double-edged sword.
Well,
right?
now they've
Crazy.
got that. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sorry, we're out of time. It's so great that you could join us. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
I love your show, Steve. Thank you very much. You take care of yourself. Thank you.